one of these drivers will not be the best driver of 2023. We got the Titleist TSR3 and the Mizuno ST-Z230, both of which are fantastic drivers. But in this video, I'm gonna show you the similarities and the differences. We'll put them head to head. Only one can move on. The other will be left in its dust. What's up, golfers? It's Brandon from NEWNINE Golf, and welcome to the 2023 Driver Bracket. If you're new to the channel, the way that this works is I'm gonna get 15 hits with both drivers. I'm gonna use the stock shaft options. We're using a TrackMan, a Pro V1 RCT ball, and we're filming in Calgary, Alberta, where the elevation is 3,428 feet. So we're gonna start with the Mizuno ST-Z230, and this is my second time really seeing this driver. It was the last driver to arrive at our fitting facility, Modern Golf, and it's been pretty fun to hit so far, so I'm really excited to get some data for you. So the stock shaft options are the UST Link Red, which is their high launch shaft, the Mitsubishi Kailai Blue, which is their mid launch shaft, and the Project X Hazardous Smoke Green, which is the shaft that I have in this driver. To me, it's unique that Mizuno is offering a Hazardous Green as their stock shaft, their low launch, low spin. The majority of manufacturers are using the Hazardous Black, and that's actually in the Titleist, which is what I'm gonna hit next. So the settings that I have this head on, it's a 9.5 degree head, and I have it on the standard loft. There, let's just do that every single time and we'll have a winning driver. So this Mizuno visually, personally, is one of the best looking drivers on the market. At address, there is about an inch and a half of black right behind the face and then carbon to the back. A lot of the drivers this year have carbon, but the Titleist that I'm gonna hit next doesn't have any carbon. So it'll be interesting to see if we notice a big difference even just between the two heads. Visually, I love how this looks. Blue accents, gray accents, carbon. I'm on board with how it looks. So far, I am pretty impressed with the Mizuno ST-Z230. I think that they've definitely improved it from last year because these numbers, like 315 carry, 335 total, are large. I don't remember the ST-Z220 getting anywhere near that, and I've been pretty consistent. So this might be a sleeper pick in the driver bracket. Can you imagine this beats Titleist in round one? So the stock option for the Mizuno comes in at 45 inches, where the Titleist stock is 45.5. In theory, I should be able to swing a longer driver faster, but the fact that I'm getting over 120 mile an hour club head speed, ball speeds around 175, 177, like this is a hot driver. I'm thoroughly impressed. I'm hitting it way better than my behind the scenes video, and I couldn't be happier. Sometimes when we start filming, I get nervous, I spray the ball, I wanna perform well for you guys. So when I watched the behind the scenes video that we just published last week, if you haven't seen it already, I'll put a link that you can find it. But I was just spraying the ball all over the place, and it was a really deflating session to hit in. Then I was watching my last year's driver bracket, and I was hitting the ball really good. I'm like, wow, did I all of a sudden just start sucking in like a 1 year's time? But these results have been really good. So I figured something out. I watched a couple swing videos on YouTube, just like all of you would, and we're starting to get it closer to that center line. And then I spray one. Got ahead of myself. But still, so that's my miss. 2,900 spin, not ideal. Typically I wanna get around 2,500, maybe even lower would be optimal spin for me, but it's not going to like 35, 36, 3,700, which would be not good. So I'm glad we dialed in this head because even my miss hits have been pretty decent. It's a low one. So some pro golfers using this exact driver would be Keith Mitchell, Luke Donald, and Grayson Sigg. So you guys are probably wondering how we're gonna pick a winner between these two drivers. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take the total distance of both drivers and subtract the number of yards offline. Because not only do I want a far driver, I want an accurate driver, and we found that this is the best formula to find the best driver 2023. I can't seem to crack 180 ball speed. I've had like 175, 176. My club head speed's varying, like 5 or 6 mile an hour difference. I was as high as 121, I think. I think 15 is the perfect sample size, right? We'll see the good ones. We'll see the ones that got away from me, but I think that's optimal. So that Mizuno beat up this tee pretty bad. Let's see if Titleist can keep it intact or if we gotta put a new one in play. Okay, Titleist TSR3. If you saw my video going back all the way to last summer, I was fit by Titleist professionals and they fit me into a Titleist TSR3. However, the driver that they fit me for is not what I'm using. They fit me into a shaft which was shorter, but I wanted to use the stock option, so that's why I went back to the 45.5-inch driver. So I have it on the A1 setting, so it's a neutral head setup. This is a full titanium driver. Again, a lot of drivers are using carbon this year, not Titleist. Titanium face. Some major differences is the Titleist face is etched. It's a laser etch where it just looks like a plain titanium on the Mizuno. At address, the TSR3 looks smaller. They're both 460cc heads, but I think visually, I don't know why the TSR3 just looks a little bit more compact. Very clean, traditional look, and this is a wicked awesome driver. I got that hazardous black shaft in here, so not the green. Let's go, here we go. Yep, that's what I remember of the Titleist TSR3. Long and straight. That's pretty gross. Pretty gross. So sound-wise, I noticed a difference in the TSR3 sounds hotter. I think it's because it's that full titanium. It just sounds a little pingier. If you like a loud sounding driver, loud in the sense that when you hit it good, it sounds good. Where the Mizuno just sounds dampened. So I really like the sound of this TSR3. We're about to lose this T pretty soon, I think. Yeah, one more hit. Let's see if I can blow it up. Okay, new T in play. That didn't last very long. I was sure last year I cracked 180 ball speed with Titleist. So some notable pro golfers using the Titleist TSR3 would be Justin Thomas, Max Homa, Will Zalatoris, and the Live Rat King himself, Cam Smith. Live Rat King, is that his new nickname? I'll let you guys know too that I was very warm coming into this session. I did my entire warm up through my bag, started with lob wedge all the way up to driver. I really wanted to be prepared for this video. I had to do a good 30-minute warm up plus stretching, so I feel really good. So there was no advantage to either driver going either first or last. Oh, I'm just so glad I'm hitting it fucking close to the line. I was considering starting like a pickleball channel if I was continuing to hit it as good as I did in my behind the scenes video. One thing that I have noticed is I think the spin has more variance in the TSR3 head. The TSR3 is more of a player's head. Mizuno just didn't release that many heads. So they had a higher launch, higher forgiveness head, and then they had this, which is kind of more the intermediate to advanced players driver head. So I just think that the Titleist TSR3 might be a little less forgiving than the Mizuno. Oh, there it is. 180, woo! Oh, what a workout. Now I can finally show you guys the head-to-head comparison to find out which one of these drivers is moving on. Let's take a look. I need some water first. Oh God, I'm sweaty.
NetCoins is a regulated North American crypto trading platform. With over 35 coins to choose from and no funding fees, getting started is easy. Join with my referral code NEWNINE and get $25 cash reward when you trade $100 worth of crypto. Sign up today on netcoins.com/US or netcoins.com/CA.
Both of those felt really good, and I feel really bad for whichever driver's not moving on, but that's how we have to do this. What do we want to see first? Want to see the Titleist because we just did Titleist? Let's do that. So here's my dispersion, which is pretty normal, that I have some going left and some going right, but I've been fit into this shaft before, so I wouldn't say that the shaft is the issue. I'm an amateur golfer. I carry about a scratch handicap. I'm actually technically just plus. We're in the off season, so we're not golfing as much as I'd like, but this data presented to us is our averages. Last year, I deleted my best and my worst hit, but I'm not doing that this year. I'm human just like you guys. I'm gonna miss some. If you guys have a fitting, you're not gonna hit them all striped down the middle. So I wanna keep my best and worst in there this year. 15 total hits. These numbers here are my averages between all of them. So my average club speed was 120, which is fast. I would say I typically average 117 to 118. So I was swinging pretty quick. Ball speed average, 176 is up there. My spin is optimal. That's the exact spin that I'm looking for because I was fit into this head and I've been fit into this shaft, I already knew coming into this that it would be kind of an optimal setting for me, and that's why I wanted to include those. Launch was decent. Carry, 316 carry, 340 total. That's pretty large. Smash factor 146. The best smash factor you can have is a 1.5. What we need to look at next is my dispersion, because not only do we want a far drive for 340, holy smokes, how are you? But I also want an accurate driver. So look at my dispersion. Okay, so what does this tell you? My traditional miss is right. So this is true to my swing. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them on the line. So not quite 50% of my drives were right near the line, and I would take that. If I could hit almost every other one right down the middle, I think we'd all take that. One big miss left, and then the majority of these were to the right. So potentially if I went into another fitting with a pro fitter, we could maybe play around with the head settings to either open or close the face just to get it closer to center. But this is my dispersion. So we're gonna come back to that when we compare it to the Mizuno, okay? Let me show you my best and my worst. So my longest drive that I hit in that session was 351. Let's go back to the tracer. A draw. Draws will typically go further. It was actually the one that was furthest left on my dispersion. Let's see if I had any closer to the line. 348, right down the middle. 2300 spin, 323 carry, 348 total. Now how about my worst? My worst was this, probably 309 total. And if that's my worst, like, what's that tell you about this driver? Spin was way up, and that's the biggest difference. So that's what I was talking about. The forgiveness of the TSR3 is maybe not as forgiving, because I don't think any of my Mizunos were as high as 3,800 spin. But if I'm missing 300 carry, almost 300 carry, 310 total, not awful, okay? We're gonna come back to this, but let's take a look at the Mizuno. Okay, now let's take a look at the Mizuno data. Okay, so all this white shot tracer is my Titleist. Let's look at Mizuno. Okay, so looking at the tracers, it looks like it was a very similar session. I would say, hey, some left, some right. Looks like my biggest miss, similar to my Titleist, was that kind of big pull was probably my biggest miss. Averaging 118 club head speed, which was not as fast as the Titleist. Ball speed was within 1 mile an hour of Titleist. Spin was within about 100 or 50, 60 RPM, so very similar spin rates. Carry 314, 316, so 2 yards difference. Total 337 versus 340. Like, how close is this head to head? This is crazy. What I noticed is my smash factor was up. My smash factor was up on the Mizuno, which is why I think it was a more forgiving driver. Okay, let's look at my dispersion. I was extremely consistent to this right side of the fairway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them are within about a 15 to 20 yard radius. Like, that's extremely consistent, right? My biggest miss to the right was just a little bit more of a fade, and I only had 3 miss left. Let's see the Titleist. This is pretty darn close, guys. So if you're at home looking at this, which one do you think had better dispersion? Let me walk you through my process. I'm looking at the line because as a golfer, our goal is the target, right? The target we have is the center line. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on that center line. Mizuno, I only had kinda 3 near the center. Potentially, if we dialed in this head or the settings or maybe even the shaft and just put that right collection closer to center, that could be a better driver. So I wanted to find my best and worst hits of the Mizuno. It looks like I had 2 that were 347. Nice little draw, still a draw, 2000 spin, 2400 spin, and a cut. So if you hit it on the screws, this thing flies a mile. Let's try to find the worst. Which was my worst? So it looks like my worst is already better than the Titleist, and again, that comes down to forgiveness. 319, big flare to the right. So it still went pretty far, but it was way far offline. Probably the furthest one offline that I've hit. 168 feet offline. I'm really surprised how close this is. Last year we had drivers that were, one was a 300 carry, the other was 330 carry. Maybe not that big, but that was as big of a gap. This is a couple yards. The only way to find out which one of these drivers is we have to do some math. I'm kind of speechless. Yeah. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be this close. Let's talk about price really quick, because this might help some of you guys make a decision. The Mizuno comes in at 600 bucks Canadian, where the Titleist is $799. So there's a $200 difference. And if this is the difference that I'm getting between the two, like they're almost identical. So if you're price conscious, the Mizuno is definitely keeping up with the Titleist. In fact, it could be better. So let's do the math and find out which one of these drivers is moving on. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna tell you guys the next matchup. Let's do some math. Okay, so remember, to get the winning driver, we have to take total distance, subtract yards offline. So let's start with the Mizuno since we hit it first. So the average yards for the Mizuno offline was 29.97 yards offline on average through my 15 hits. So when I take the average total distance of 337 minus 29.97, we have a total yardage of 307.03. So when we look at the Titleist, the average yards offline was 24.53. When I subtract that from the average total distance of 340.7, we have 316.17. Therefore, the winner and moving on into the next round of the 2023 driver bracket is the Titleist TSR3. Before you guys leave, I gotta tell you what the next head-to-head is for our driver bracket. Between these two drivers though, it was like super close. So I'm really impressed in the 230 ST-Z from Mizuno. And I had a feeling that Titleist was going to move on because that's a super hot driver this year. I predict it going far. Okay, so next week's matchup, we have in the red corner, the TaylorMade Stealth 2 Plus versus the Srixon ZX5 Mark II LS. A lot of reviewers have been shitting on this TaylorMade. I had a really good session and I quite like the driver and I was thoroughly impressed with the Srixon. I'm thinking this might be a close head-to-head. If you haven't already, make sure you smash subscribe and turn on the post notifications so you can be notified when this video drops. Thanks again for watching the start of our 2023 driver bracket. We'll check in with you guys next time.